happening, everyone? We are back. Yeah, we got some good streams coming next couple of days, I do believe. So this will be a hot, fast, about an hour or so. Got a lot of stuff to cover. Glad to get a market update, PulseChain stuff going on with Axis, and we're going to jump right into it. I can chat just a minute. No promises on questions today. However, please keep the chat clean and awesome and fun, and let's get into it. Without further ado, welcome back to the show. Axis Alive. How's it going, Jim?
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back. I think this is my first stream in like 3 weeks, but except for I was on for like 20 minutes yesterday with Ewok and Broke Boy before my power went out. So
nice.
So
yeah,
glad to be back at it. And thanks for getting me on here quickly. I know I just messaged you yesterday and then we made it happen. So I expect a lot more content coming from me in the next 2 to 3 months as we roll into the heat of the season when I think things are going to pick up for crypto. So pretty excited right now. I was a little depressed the last few days, but I'm starting to feel a little bit better.
Here we go. I mean, like we're talking in the green room, there's ups, there's downs. Crypto's got it's kind of like, I kind of describe America like this sometimes. You got the best of everything, we got the worst of everything. Kind of like crypto. You got the highest highs, you got the lowest lows, and we're just out here trying to win in between. So what's going on, man? Like, what do you think? I'm glad you're in a good mood. I always appreciate, I know everyone out there is kind of going back and forth. I've curated Twitter so much that I try to, again, I like hearing objective conversation. I want to talk about the good information, all that stuff too. However, there's just a lot of stuff that's just noise, and I try to cut through the noise on the show. That's one thing I like to do, and you're one of the people I like to do it with. So glad you're back after your short hiatus. I've been on a little, I don't want to say break myself. I've been been spending some time building stuff and growing in other areas as well. But this week I got some bangers planned starting today. Well, starting I guess yesterday was a really good stream on a DGen Roundtable. If you guys haven't checked that out, I'm gonna repost to the channel as well.
Nice, I will check that out. Those guys are fun to stream with, and and Zenith always asks really solid lines of questioning. I like him a lot.
He's so good. I told him that, like, when I had him on the show the first time, I'm like, I explicitly invited you because I keep hearing you on streams just ask really good, intelligent.
Definitely bring him on here more too. Like, I mean, if you're out there listening, Zenith, please come on right now and we'll just hash it out.
I will drop you a link, Zenith. I agree. Yeah, Zenith's great. Also, shout out to Creative Crypto. I gave him a shout out the other day when I streamed on Monday or so. That's one of the channels that I think is like a no BS channel. They really cover some good topics. They do clips that like are just engaging but not clickbaity. So appreciate all the content.
Yeah, if you're interested in the RH ecosystem, you got to check out the Creative Crypto channel. I think Broke Boy's like perfect. He's got a radio voice, so he's perfect for narrating these stories that we have on the chain. And Ewok's got like a giant heart, and he's just like a true believer in the ecosystem and what Richard's got going on over here. So yeah, I enjoy them a lot.
I've yet to riff with those guys, so that's definitely on the list. What's going on, man? What do you want to kick it off with? We got some green lately. I've literally not even been looking. Like, people tell me things, and I'm like, I need more. I need to hear it from Axis right now.
A couple things, just like, BTC and ETH are kind of set up in some sort of like a sideways pattern in light of the German government dumping Bitcoins, and it's not even doing anything to the price. Like, it's just flat basically. And at the same time, the dollar index is breaking down and stock market's making all-time highs. So it's really setting up nicely for even further upside potentially on these markets. But there's a big question mark of, will we see some kind of crazy chaotic stuff going into the fall, into the election, like, and perhaps, up to a full year of sideways action on crypto. So I think it's exciting because if that is, kind of the route that we have to look at, is either, upside sooner because of an ETH ETF in maybe August, or that doesn't happen and these things take a little longer to play out. We're looking at up to a year potentially of sideways action, and it would resemble a lot 2019. So with that in mind, like, where does that leave PulseChain? That's nobody knows. Like, I don't know anybody that knows. I didn't really think that we'd retrace the whole pump from January through March. I did not think that would happen. So I was actually pretty surprised, but it makes sense from the angle of how much of this money on PulseChain is still HEX bull market money that was like 10 to 20 cent HEX that was sacrificed for these coins. And then these guys are still sitting on, like, I'm talking like the bigger sacrificers that were there early, like they're still capitalizing on bull market prices effectively by selling at these levels. So, but I think that, a lot of that's coming to an end. Like we've seen like the ends of like Nick Cherry, one of these huge mega dumpers, like he's almost out. And like another guy, Gunther, I think he's got like 4,000 t-shirts on both chains now, where I think he used to have like dozens of thousands of t-shirts. And so naturally you're seeing like a lot of these guys like get weeded out. And that bodes really well for upside, in the next 1 to 2 years. And it's really starting to feel like, to me, like my premonition is going to come true of like a longer cycle, with massive upside, similar to like what happened to gold when it had got its ETF in 2003, I think it was.
Wow. Yeah, it's so back to McDonald's. Is that what the summary? McDonald's until 2026?
No, because if you're adept and you're out here and you're playing these games, like, and you're paying attention, you're not like the rest of them. And so there's so much opportunity to get ahead in your positions on PulseChain. Even in down markets, there's so many skills and strategies that you can deploy to increase the amount of units you have of these coins. That's why people sign up for like my website, is because like I show people those things. And it's hard to give away the secrets publicly, because what happens is eventually people use them against you. And we're not in a kind of a market environment where you want to teach people how to do things that could be used badly, or for good or for evil sort of thing. So but I would highly encourage people to look into like, people poo-poo like groups and stuff like that, but find somebody that you gravitate towards if you need help with this stuff. And, obviously a lot of you guys have been following me for years, and RHMax as well, and know your way around the chain. But if you're sad that your sack bags are down and you've never moved one coin, like that's kind of on you. And I would really challenge you. And this is true of many whales. And I just heard about a whale this week that's, was top of the leaderboard for sacking and never did anything with his coins. So he's just sitting on them for years now, a massive whale. And so it's like, those are the kinds of guys we want to get involved in the game, playing the game, moving coins around, providing LP and stuff. And so if you're out there and you're listening to this stuff, I encourage you to like go check out my website, accesslive.com, or, come find as much free content as you can and like start to try to play the game.
That's one thing that you just reminded me. It's like, even when the price is down, it is nice to look at the t-shirt count and be like, that's nice to have. And whether it's, it's kind of like whether the HEX price recovers short-term, long-term, it's the t-shares, man, like getting the yield over time, and, having a bag to rest with and let do the work in the meantime, so you don't have to trade, or having a bag to look for different opportunities. I think there's a lot of different options in the ecosystem.
Yeah. Would you agree that the meta game has completely changed on PulseChain compared to like just stake HEX? Yeah.
I think right now it's, I don't know. I think you have some more context than me on this, but right now it feels like where we are in PvP mode, and we're been in this period of just like waiting for something good to happen rather than just the pumps here and there. And then, again, taking advantage of opportunities where they come with LP and otherwise. Yeah, I think it's definitely easy to look at staking as a no-brainer thing to do when the price is going up and everything's stable and everyone's nice. But when the conditions that we are now that are not so sunny all the time, it does feel like, man, I do want to separate the desperation from the strategic changes. I think that's important too, because I think a lot of the moves to make money can be just out of, I need to do this because this is my timeline, I'm not meeting my goals. Making those types of moves versus, hey, like either the game has changed or I see opportunities that weren't there before other than staking, and to reallocate to some of those things. I think there is a difference that is hard to see sometimes too.
And so then to agree with you, and then also counter with like, HEX staking is still probably at the best value you can get in the last 3 to 4 years. Like this is the best amount, the most t-shirts you can get for your dollar on either chain. And so I think that should be looked at and taken seriously, because, if you put 100 or 200 t-shirts out there in 2039, if you're young and you can afford to do that, and you're going to plan on living a long life, like it's a totally valid strategy to just only put out, like get 1 million HEX, which is almost free these days. and put that stuff out for 15 years and then make decisions that's between year 7 and year 15. Like, you know, if you have 1 or 2 15-year stakes coming off every year perpetually, I mean, it really frees you up at that point, like on year 7 forward, to like make decisions every year as you need capital to live your life, and not think about it so linear, like about seeing the stake all the way through to its end, but more just you know, using the time value of money to your advantage now while you can get HEX super cheap. I'm accumulating HEX, like still, like it's fine. Like I think I'm still a HEXkin. I still use the HEX badge on Twitter. You know, I think HEX is a cool tool. I think the billionaires that want this thing to succeed aren't going to just abandon it. So, and I think now is like the best opportunity to get t-shirts. You know, I was wearing around your t-shirt that said, you know, just trying to get 1,000 t-shirts over in Europe when I was over there. Like, you know, we all want thousands of t-shirts. Like that should be the aim, because it's something that'll pay you. And so it's a hedge against inflation, and it's a hedge against decisions and games that you're going to play now.
Yeah, that's the sister t-shirt. What he's talking about. There's a purple and there's a red one that I made. The red one is HEX, and then I'm not trying to be a thousandaire. And then the other one I made is a purple one. It says I'm just trying to get 1,000 t-shirts. We're trying to get 1,000 t-shirts. So
I love this question about MMC. He says 15-year stakes, anything beyond 5 seems a stretch. And I actually believe the opposite, which is that if you're not doing longer than 10, like what are you even staking for? Unless you have multi-millions of them and you're doing a roller, like 15 days, 30 days max. Like there's no in between for me on HEX right now. It's either you've got tens of millions of HEX and you're doing a 15 to 30 day roller, or you're staked past 10 years, and preferably you're just max lengthing them. I think that there's this huge discrepancy. Like there's almost no reason to go in the middle at this point for hexicans that have been here for a while and have a ladder set already. Like there's just, and now if you're new, that dynamic is changing. That changes a lot, because if you're brand new, you almost need to capture some exposure in some of the other assets as well. So it's super hard, I think, to explain, what do I do if I'm new to PulseChain, or if I'm new to, like, you know, you think like, oh, well, a brand new person to crypto should probably just get some ETH, right, to start. You know, that should be step 1. And then eventually, as they start to fill in the gaps, they'll start to recognize that the opportunity on PulseChain with just the, you know, the Pulse coin and the PulseX and Inc. and then the hexes as well. So yeah, it's very difficult for me to simplify the best strategy, because there's like 1,000,000 quadrillion different ways to play this game. But you know, HEX is going to be your safest long-term hedge that I think you can find. And right now, more than ever, while it's so cheap, and Crispy like talks extensively about that and has the data to back it up.
MMC's on a roll here, man. He says HEX bottom July 10th. What do you think about that?
Well, we can take a look. I got the chart up. I got actually the combined price. I still think the combined price is more valuable than almost any other metric, because it is the same thing. So he thinks it bottomed here, huh? I'm not so sure. If you just copy out this fractal from back here and just like look at like, well, what could we see? It does. These things don't just V bottom and then that's it. I mean, they do, right? That happened with HEX in 2020. Let's see here. Hexchart.com brings us to this. And I'll give you an example of a V bottom on HEX, and it was one and done type of thing. And it was way back here where maybe I need a daily chart to give you some more resolution. Something like this, where it pumped, it went down 79% on a Uniswap, and it wicked back up. Now this chart doesn't show the 79% drop. This chart only shows the 67%, but it actually went down here on a Uniswap and then wicked right back up. And so it was like a V bottom reversal at this point. But these are massive candles, and this is not what we're seeing now. Like this candle was like 100% candle. Like I don't see 100% candle on the combined HEX chart anywhere on here. This is only a 69% candle. And these are 3 days. So you're taking 3 days of time to get 60%. These are not, for a V bottom on HEX, I would expect like something like this, like massively, like you pump like a half a penny or a penny and a half, or, you know, something big. It's going to really signal to the market like, okay, it's go time. And I'm not seeing that yet, but this could be the start of something, right? So yeah, I don't know if I think it's too soon to say that we bottomed here for HEX. And let's see, the RSI is chilling at the 30 level, which is good. That's what you want to see support, right? So this is like the perfect level to capture some support. And if it breaks below, it's a really good buy. So that's what I would look for is, in terms of buying it, like you'd almost want to see it break down hard, and then whoever comes in to buy there will probably V-bottom it back up, and then it'll create some sideways structure or something like this. Let me pull up hexfire.io as well. So I guess what's my takeaway here? I don't think we're bottom. I don't think it necessarily needs to bottom here. What do you think?
I mean, my non-TA opinion is not much value in that for that question. However, I mean, I that's literally, I was telling you before, like I haven't even been looking at the price charts much. I've just been focused on healthy distractions, building and otherwise. So it's like, I don't know. I think every time we're like, every time somebody points to a bottom signal, oh, that's a bottom signal. Something bad happens. Oh, bottom signal. I'm like, I don't know. I've been hearing bottom signal for a while, so I don't dare guess at this point. I'm just bags back to all that stuff,
Yeah, I think a lot of the bottom signal stuff like that really relies on, performance from ETH, and so I've been doing some analysis on that. We can take a look in a second. I'm just kind of on the HEX thought right now, but let's see what we got for the combined HEX price against the Mayer multiple. So it is in a buy zone. So historically, HEX has been, let's see, based on past performance, these are the times to buy when it goes below the green. And I think HEX has actually done a really damn good job of going super low on the Mayer on 3 different occasions. So, I mean, technically, if we're going to come back and revisit these kinds of levels, there's still more to go for HEX. And I don't think there's any reason why HEX needs to move first. I've kind of abandoned that thought process. It makes sense for me that the chain will pump first. So, PulseX and ETH will pump, and then, HEX will pump. So if I'm wrong about that, I'm cool with being wrong about that, by the way. But it's just the market has proven me wrong so many times. I'm just, HEX is kind of on the back burner for now, but that doesn't mean it's over.
What do you think about Richard's tweet talking about the, I think it's, what was it? We're getting close to the SEC bottom from last year.
I think it's just he's opening the door for you to start to want to look to DCA with size. I think that's what that is. I don't think there's any particular reason beyond that why, hey, it's us.
Nice.
Why why you'd need to say that, okay, that he's telling us right now this is a bottom, but just more, it's been seen by 150K people or views. And so we're at that level where it's like, well, these are the typically where you see double bottoms or like levels to hold. And when we look at Pulse, this was a nice buyback the day after that happened. So this is more optimistic than the HEX price right now, because HEX is I think totally dependent on what Pulse is doing. So Pulse is the leader here, the driver, but it's still, you're still catching a falling knife inside of here. But it got a nice bounce here though. So, I don't know. We bounced in the past with Pulse as well. So do I think that this is him bottom calling? Maybe, but what that looks like then is 6 weeks of just grind and sideways action. It's something like this would be totally normal, and then start to build out and then go higher, by this is already October for reference. So, I mean, this could take time, right? For us to come test this upper band and then, fart around and then start to build structure out of here. So this bottom is going to take time. It's not going to be like you wake up tomorrow and it's up like a 50x or something. It's just not going to happen.
That's right on character for Richard. Things, being patient for things, waiting for time to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could see that. I think a lot of people get excited about when they see him post charts and otherwise, but I think you make a great point of, even if he is hinting that it could be the bottom or otherwise, it's not going to be like, all right, tomorrow we start going up, just as you talked about.
Yeah, this last time when it actually bottomed, it took 53 days just to even get some like serious parabolic movement. So that put us at like September, which I'm cool with that time frame. But I'm also prepared for not getting any movement till next year too. So maybe that's how you should be playing this too, DCing as you can, and if you can and you want to really, but just not expecting this thing to pump like overnight.
Wouldn't it be symbolic if it's basically
what up, good texture?
It will not go below SEC lows, like for spirit reasons, because we will win. It will not go below those lows.
And I don't know if I think if he won, if the SEC thing was like it was history today, I don't think that would result in a big pump necessarily. I think like it's going to take time still. Like I think we still need more time.
Well, what are the biggest things? Because that's an interesting thing to say though too, because a lot of people believe that the SEC is holding a lot of the capital liquidity back. People are afraid that uncertainty, right? Good decision, bad decision. Otherwise, retail not coming in, ETH not pumping yet. SEC, are those all things that are holding capital back in PulseChain right
now? Yes, it is. But I just don't think, I think it'd be sloppy though at best, because you'd have this mishmash of believers and non-believers still buying and selling. So like you could have like big bag holders, like let's say Clarity tomorrow, big pump, big dump. You know what I mean? Because like not everybody that's got bags really cares about that or is paying attention, and they're just going to sell the first rally. We even saw that here where, we got a nice first rally and it almost did a full retracement. But this type of stuff is going to be harder to do the longer this goes sideways inside of here and compresses.
What are we looking for as towards this? Like, are there things buy the rumor, sell the news events in our ecosystem? Like if we see Godwell tweet, is that like, what are some things where we're like, okay, this could lead up to something, but then like you said, it could be, a dump afterwards.
I don't know. I just like to look at the technicals and forget all that, because that's not going to really, things are going to be said and happen, and it's too hard to predict the timing and what the impact will be of things of that nature.
Well, for example, October, the next big date when they actually argue the case.
Yeah. Well, what makes a bigger impact, I think, is when buying activity comes with size, though. Not like these little buys, like, 20K, like we need like $100 million enters the PulseChain bridge. Now that would be an event. I don't think like guy makes a tweet is going to do it anymore. I think people are tired of that. But I do, this is all like completely speculation and some of my expertise. Like, I like reading the market psychology of it, but like more importantly is like I can look at this historical volatility and say, look, this is a technical falling wedge, which is where data points bounce around inside of this type of structure, and then it pops out, and this marks that volatility is about to enter the market because we just broke out of this type of structure. So you go look at what a falling wedge is, and that's typically what you see as a bullish reversal structure. But in the context of this being volatility, it means that things are about to swing around in either direction. So volatility is rising. You're on this massive positive slope, and that's because when you look at the price chart, we had big spike down. And if I go into like a 4-hour, you're going to see it. So we had like big spike down, minus 22% in 9 days, and then just in the last day, it's like up 10%. So like the more that this chops up and down, that's really signaling that volatility. So the question then becomes, are we going to see a massive spike down or a massive pump? And no matter what, in my mind, even if we get the big spike down, it's going to revert to the mean. If we get the big pump up, it's going to revert to the mean, because we're still on this type of a trend where you're fighting this slide right here. So this is like, this is the time component that no matter what happens in terms of volatility, you have to be prepared for either situation. So if we get a big pump, big dump down, you're there to buy that dip. Maybe you have limit orders in, maybe, or however you want to play that. Or if we get a big pump, perhaps you're prepared to like take a little bit off so that you can buy back the retracement back to the mean. And so this is good though, because this is progress from before, where we were just getting like a declining in volatility. See how this was, the volatility was just declining. And what that resulted in was just like steady, slow, boring downwards price action, but at a decreasing rate, where it kind of went more, it's getting flatter and flatter and flatter and flatter, signaling that a bottom is coming potentially. Yeah. So there's that element for sure.
I think you just drew an Ethereum logo up there. I was like, great segue to why the hell hasn't ETH pumped yet? What are we, when, where's the stick? Why aren't you going to move ETH? We want you to go to the moon, ETH, for PulseChain's sake.
Yeah, so ETH is super bullish right now. Even, I know it might not feel like that, but this is like really good price action, and it's respecting these weekly candle closes. So you see how like these candles are like literally sitting on, these candle bodies are literally sitting on that $3,000 level. The actual level I have here is 29.26, but you know, for all intents and purposes, it's 3K. But for 4 consecutive weeks, these candles closed exactly at that level, meaning that that's like a hard line in the sand for the bulls, and it's being protected. And so what that looks like is a couple outcomes, like, you know, either this is a bottom for ETH, and it could chop around here for like, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks and start to build up and go, or the same thing happens, but you get a fake out breakdown, one more like painful event, and then a quick reversal where the bulls just take all that supply off. And why I can confirm that with like when we look at Glassnode, like you can see how much exchange has been, or how much balances have been removed from the exchanges for Ethereum. It's just like it's at the lowest levels it's been since 2015. So there's not enough supply out there to keep the market at the same price. But any kind of capitulation down because of BTC weakness, not because ETH is dumping, but because BTC weakness, or because Fed rates get cut, some other outside factor, that's going to be bought up like crazy. Like if you got a chance to buy 2,200 ETH or 2,400 ETH, I would take it. So yeah, it's just we're in a sideways pattern here, and you could see that this is a clear range bound price action. You know what else did this kind of action was Chainlink did that for like many months, years, as a matter of fact, I think. And the price action here resembles a lot like this stuff here, kind of, but even better on the Bitcoin chart, where it's like if you look at this on Bitcoin chart, like this is what I mean about multi-weeks, just where the bears try to penetrate that level, but they're just unsuccessful in that. And so ETH just like it just bores people to death. Here, if BTC did it back here, right here at these levels around 25K, right here. And so I think that's kind of what we're just replaying out the same kind of pattern for both. You know, you can see the comparison between BTC and ETH. And so now it's happening on a more condensed scale. You can see there.
What do you think? Got a comment from Paul. Sideways ETH chop 4 to 6 weeks after ETF goes live, then rocket.
Oh, the ETF kind of throws a wrench in it because, well, I suppose like we can key back to what happened with BTC, which is exactly what you just said, which was this price action, accumulation, fake out, and then explosion to the upside. So yeah, perhaps you're right. I don't remember the exact date that I think the ETF was here on that fake out to the upside, and they thought it was, and like the noobs thought that was a sell the news, but the inflows were so big that this was like free Bitcoin for whoever was a buyer here. And yeah, so perhaps like if it plays out in the same way, we'll get this kind of a pennant. So like let's throw it on there once. How about that? We'll throw it on ETH and just say, let's say that the ETF happens tomorrow. What does that look like for us? I mean, that would have us at like 5K in no time. So yeah, you get that side like ETH, and I'm sure that the that ETF thing would happen then somewhere here, like maybe like 3-4 weeks from now, and then you get that fake out upside, fake out downside. One last chance to buy 2,700. People think it's going lower. It's going to be hard though because people know what happened with the BTC ETF. It might actually be more bullish, actually, but it remains to be seen. And then you flip this 4,000 level of support in that case. So I am bullish on Ethereum here. I think the price structure is perfect. And I'm so happy that Bitcoin and ETH are sideways here and not going up, because that would shorten our cycle. And so then this brings me to my next point, which is doomsday. And I would like to see doomsday, but can't guarantee it. But what that looks like is something like this, where we do come down and test those lows around the 2200, 2400, and then we get some sort of like a Fed rate pivot next, maybe February, March, or November, somewhere in that range. I know it's not specific and all, but I want you to be prepared for, if that does come, like, it's going to spike the price down and everyone's going to get shook. But we've been here before with COVID, and you want to buy those lows up, no matter where it happens or when it happens. Before next May, it's going to happen. And I think one of the rumors running around is like they're going to set up a newly elected President Trump with a bad economic setup to make it look like he's the bad guy. And so then this would be like a perfect black swan to like pull off. But that's all speculation. But just be prepared to have dry powder in the event that these happen, so that you can buy those dips. But not that they need to happen necessarily.
That's interesting. Wow.
And so then where does this put us? I mean, look, ETH could be hitting like 20,000 on the low end to as high as 46,000 on the high end. And the deeper this retracement goes, the higher the upside goes. So you kind of want to see some fear and some people liquidate themselves to give us more upside. And I think I'm conservatively looking for that like 15K level. Whereas like before the bull market really got started, I was really only looking at 8K to 12K per ETH. But that was my bear bias coming out of the bear market. Now I'm feeling a little more bullish and like seeing these upside targets being like more like 15, 20, maybe higher, right? And then these fractals are showing that as well.
We know we have, wells and stuff that appear to like PulseChain that have ETH and all that stuff too. But is there other reasons, liquidity bonding or otherwise, that Ethereum pumping, market sentiment, I guess, whatever you can, dig into that you know of too, that ETH going up, it's good for PulseChain?
ETH going up is good for PulseChain because some of the big whales are big ETH whales, and they're going to come to PulseChain to play the casino game and pump the living hell out of it, so that after they pump the hell out of it, retail comes in behind them, and the rest of the crypto degens from other chains flock to PulseChain for the money that's over there at that time. And then they pump it up another level, and then retail comes in behind those guys. So like you get three waves of pumpamentals off massive gains in ETH. The core users, whales and smart money from ETH that also have history with RH coins, they bring their money first, pump it up. Sack Wallet's buying, God Whale's buying, other ETH whales are buying, and then and this could be old HEX money that was converted to ETH and removed from the market for a while. That's just sitting there waiting dormant for this very thing. And then yeah, you get like the layers of people that layer in behind them, which should take us up a lot higher.
Do you think a lot of the drama and the negativity and stuff is that on the ground level? It's like the separation of like, that's just kind of like feelings and stuff people are thinking of that are, on the ground level side, but then the whales, they're either asleep, not worried about it, or everyone's just kind of like they're just kind of waiting for the right time to enter. Like there's no concerns. It's just more of like, yeah, I'm just not going to put money in right now because it's not the right time.
Yep. And those guys will wait forever. And then the bad sentiment comes from loudmouths on Twitter that have no power in the system. A lot of times, I've actually pretty much stopped going on X. I don't go on there. I did make a post about the gas the other day on ETH because I just thought it was cheeky, but I just don't really use it anymore, and I don't see the point. Like, it doesn't really grow my brand, or it doesn't. All that's ever come from that in the last year is just negativity and attacks, and like, so I mean, if you want the content, just come to the streams and or join the groups, or join the Telegram groups that are relevant, that are open. Because there's plenty of people out there that want to be productive and positive and use constructive criticism instead of just like tear each other down and like talk shit. And that's just so lame. And like, we're too busy, like RHMax and I are too busy building cool shit that don't have time for that anymore. And the game has evolved. and the chain is live, and so there's plenty to do here already. So like, I think your time is better spent learning how to get an edge and gain more units of these coins in the market than there is going on there and complaining or whatever. I don't see much positivity on there anymore.
Yep. I've thought of even turning comments off on tweets. I literally, it's crossed my mind. I'm like, I can't, mute, block, all that stuff. I'm trying to curate the feed where I can get good information. I can hear objective conversation, and I can I can take it, analyze it, and all that stuff too, without avoiding a lot of the drama stuff. But it is a great perspective to zoom out and see what's see the difference between the different capital levels of people in that ecosystem too. Sorry, everyone in the chat, by the way, I can't get to all the questions. I know there's some questions, comments, and stuff in there, but there's
a couple here. Yeah, there's a couple questions I want to talk about. Like Viper Styles says, when access to 100K, love the TA and content, Pulse ecosystem to the moon. So there's been a couple bullish things that have happened on that front. And then after that, Tam, I'll get to your question about the ink farms, because I think that's relevant for a lot of people. Maybe I'll address that first and then come back. So let me address Tam first with about the ink farm. So like when I'm looking at ink pulse ratio, because I don't really care about the dollar price too much on any of this stuff. A couple weeks ago, after this green candle printed on June 5th, I thought maybe that this was going to be a reversal and we might break out and go test the highs and go higher. And so like rather than risk impermanent loss, I pulled my farm positions. And so I'm just kind of chilling right now. And it's proven that I should have just stayed in them. I was wrong about that short term, and that this range is holding, which is good. Like I'm glad to be wrong about this, because you want to see ink kind of like maintain its price levels. You don't want to bring it too low where a whole new class of like 10, 20, or 30 users comes in and gets big bags of this stuff and then can be a bad actor on the ink price later. You would rather them have to buy the marked up price here at the side of this range that's been trading for like 120 plus days. So that's all positive. And I'm glad to say that, I was wrong, but I also have been able to capitalize on this ink market and farming for a while. And also I got another reason why I removed is because I thought, if the market's going to get bullish, like if I remove LP, it's going to give it more upside. But if it goes down, it also gives it more downside because there's less liquidity there supporting that price. So it goes in both directions. But in my thesis here was that we were going to break out to the upside, which did not occur yet. So it also has found support today as well, though. Like it looks like every time we go try to breach this 236, that there's a big wick and it gets bought back up. So that's promising as well. And we may just see another one of these events where like big wicks for a few days and then it pops to the upside. So still bullish on ink, but still deciding when is the right time to get back into the farm. And then to address like the access to 100K thing, we solved for an issue we were having on 2FUX, where the voting was kind of screwed up. So like what I want to show you guys is I'm gonna have to pull down my window for a second and show you a different one, but it's important. So let me get to the right screen here. 1 second. The issue that we were having is, and by the way, why is this relevant to the access price going to 100K? Well, because what gives the solid index value is the rewards you can get for getting exposure. And then you have like this history of huge price performance. So it's kind of twofold, but when there's certain expectations like that about this index being like a huge value move for people, like it's got to be respected on the APRs that was promised. So what happened was there was a subgraph error, and so it was spitting out the wrong data. And but where we're at now with this is, this 2Solid pool has 23% of all of the voting power on 2FUX. And so that means that in Fux.io, 69% of all of the voting power is in the hands of the 2FUX shareholders. But then inside of that 69%, 23% of that is being directed at this particular pool. And it outmatches every other pool by a landslide. Like I think if I scroll through here, like here's the time pool with 5.8% voting power. And like this is data that you can't get unless you're a voter. So this is important that I'm showing you guys this so it's provable. Now I think this is good that the prime stability pool and the more fucks given pool, they're at like 5 and 6% respectively. You want to see those pools rewarded, and you also want to see the stablecoin pools be rewarded as well. So these votes will shift around, but the point was we launched the 2 solid pool on 2 fucks as an opportunity that it'd be hard to come by. So like we want that to make that the best it can be for as many people as possible. And it's shooting out like pretty high APRs with tons of liquidity in there already. So if I sort by TVL, it's the 3rd biggest pool here on 2 fucks, and it's got almost $500,000 inside of there, and it's printing 50% APR. So that's pretty juicy. And that's paid out in 2 fucks, and then from swap revenue from the protocol, which is, the cream on top. And in addition to this, like there's going to be these, the Camel Clan is going to come out with additional rewards in the form of meme coins. That's going to increase the APR even more. And remember that these APRs are respective of the price of 2 fucks of fucks. So as fucks and 2 fucks increase in price, as these meme coins increase in price, that's going to boost these APRs, what you're seeing in terms of percent, even more as well. So I don't think there's any other thing out there that's quite as juicy as this right now on the Fucks exchange in terms of opportunity for both huge upside price appreciation on these scarce assets in the 2 solid pool, but also in the flexibility you have of going between Fox.io and 9inch for the yield over there as well, where they're printing like anywhere from 40 to 80% APRs on those farms. So, I mean, there's just the optionality, like the market needs to price in, the yield mechanic of these things as well. Like, if big difference if it's just a meme coin that doesn't produce an APR, and then you have this other coins that are speculative that also come with way more APR. So that's more consistent. So these are the types of things that I think investors are looking for. And that's why we teamed up with these guys on these 2 dexes to try to produce those results for you guys. And in addition to that, both Solid X and Axis tokens are getting upgrades. One of them is a game, and one of them is a share system. I haven't talked anything about that yet, and I'm going to slowly release bits of information about that over the next month or so on different streams. So if you're tuning into me, you'll catch more and more of that. Super, super excited because we have one of the best devs in HEX, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. I think it's one of the best devs in HEX, my favorite dev. And he's come to me with this idea of how to enhance Axis by giving it the power of the time value of money. And so I'm super excited to prove something like the HEX confusion through this new mechanic.
HEX confusion.
Yeah, speaking of that, like COM is way low in price, but it is now in an uptrend. So it's consolidating below what was previously these support lows here. So now it's just consolidating and grinding up. That's optimistic because I think you can get a quad for $5,000. These quads were $87,000 up here. Now they're only 5,000. So you're talking about a massive range.
I don't know if you're showing the screen.
Oh shit.
Yeah, we're still in 2 fucks right now.
Yeah, let me hop off here. Yeah, so here's COM. What I was pointing out was like these lows here created this like lower trend line, but we broke below, but now we're consolidating and chopping back up into the pattern. And this is good. Like, but my point was that, a quadrillion of these things, there's only about 120 or 130 quadrillion of these things out there. So just imagine if everyone wants a quad, each one is $5,000 currently, and you can get one now before it's back up here where it's like 87K for one. Assuming that, that the quad fathers stay true to their mission of accumulating all these things up, and now they're super cheap. So, it looks like there's clear accumulation happening on this chart. So, keep an eye out for that. And so in addition to that, like the Axis price should perform well going into launching a proof of concept for why the HEX confusion will work long term, under the condition that this is a way more controlled supply and market makers can incentivize the right kinds of behavior from the market.
Yeah, we got about 12, 14 minutes left. You want to hit up some PulseChain ecosystem? stuff.
Yeah, let me rip through.
I guess continue, Will. I mean, you went through communists.
Let me say one thing about 2Fucks here. Like, yeah, we'll go through just a quick. We'll just run through. We'll rip through like 20 charts. So there's clear divergence happening on 2Fucks right now. So you get this like lower lows happening, but you get higher lows happening on the RSI. So the strength it's getting stronger. I would look at that level. I mean, this is like the historically the lowest levels you can buy. You could buy 2Fucks. And it's important because it's needed for selling votes on bribery. It's important for the 2Solid pool if you want exposure. You could use it for voting power to incentivize the pools you like, which I think is more of like a whales game. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I'd recommend putting it in the pools that you want. But just accumulate these things while they're cheap because they're going to be needed for different things on the protocol. So that's 2Fucks showing some divergence here. I would recommend that one. And then Pulse versus ETH. So this is one we don't look at very often, but it's important to look at it. When you measure Pulse in ETH terms, it made new lows, but it is also forming massive divergence currently. And so as long as this thing can kind of hold this level here on the RSI and bounce, I mean, even this thing could just do this type of thing and be like really boring and slow. And then this will still hold this RSI. And then eventually, when the time is right, this thing's going to pop hard. And the divergence was showing this months in advance. So currently, Pulse is starting to gain strength on ETH, but it's at new lows though. So it's easier now at these new lows where it's paying for everybody else that's in already that, there's a lack of selling and then Pulse is getting ready to overperform ETH once again. And then PulseX as, I don't look at the dollar chart, but I do look at the Pulse version and our valuation, and this thing's just grinding up into the right against Pulse. And I think the target level is parity. So you heard it here, like I think PulseX can become 1-to-1 with Pulse and go beyond that just based on it's just simple tokenomics, guys. There's going to be less PulseX forever, whereas Pulse inflates. And so that should be easy enough to understand. Like a lot of the haters and faders and people that are down bad have just quit. And so that really freed up a lot of the supply for diamond hands to buy it up. And it's a long game, but it's a guarantee almost. So PulseX for the 1-to-1 ratio. And then Inc, of course, can go tremendously high from here. It's still discounted relative to where it's been in the past. So, I think we've talked a little bit about $130 to $300 per Inc. The first level to watch for is $20 to $30. And perhaps we stumble around there for a bit, or maybe hit 50, like kind of like how ETH did when it was young. We're kind of played from $10 to $50 and for a while, and an Inc, and same concept, and then goes higher. And then the next levels I'd look for is like 80 to 130, and I mean then beyond that it can go potentially $1,000 a coin if we get 1 million users. So, but that's a big what if. But I'd love to see that this cycle where PulseChain just gets adopted because out of necessity almost. So those look good. And then again, HEX, PHEX looks really good here. It looks like it does really look like it's trying to bottom to me, but we have a little bit further to go until the MACD crosses bullish. So before this crosses bullish in like 2 weeks, this can easily get shit on and reverse back to the downside. So there's no confirmation in here at all whatsoever. But the RSI is trying to bottom here at a higher level than it did back in March. So that's good. And it would be a higher low. And it's just, I think it's going to take time. I think HEX is super slow, but it's also more pure at this point because a lot of the dead weight's gone. So, and then ETH HEX is really surprising in a lot of ways. And I just think it's trying to come back up here to reclaim where the market really values it at, and, take away all the FUD and campaign and the hate. And, you could just get so much HEX down here when it was at like, I don't know what this was and I think it was like 0.0012 or something. I mean, those levels are super cheap. And in Pulse terms, it's actually gaining on Pulse because Pulse has been so weak and the liquidity is so thin that there is obviously clear accumulation happening, and it's working. It's up 88% in 99 days. So, I've been a big buyer of EHEX. I always have been, and I've been bullish on EHEX forever. It's just there's been a lot of unknowns in there with that, but so I'm bullish on both of the hexes as well. And we talked about communists. I think Prime I think Prime 2 Fox is catching a pump here. It's super low liquidity, so it's printing pretty decent APRs. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this should be up here. So it's actually kind of crazy that it's so cheap, but it's got 139% to go to get back to where it the fair value redeemability of it is from Prime Fox to Prime 2 Fox. And so it's like I don't even know why the price is down here. Clearly people that had it didn't understand it or got it at a good price. So but yeah, I think this is going to be easy to get back up to that 1-to-1 when the time is right. And then Fame is in an uptrend and breaking up, and this is a sleeper that you don't want to sleep on at all. Actually, you want to pay attention. This is a dark horse for the cycle. I don't like to talk about it because I want to go buy as much of it as possible, but I also spread so thin that I'm not going to be able to capture as much as I want anyway. So, here you go, guys. This is a breaking out of an ascending triangle currently, and probably set to double up from here. So maybe you could look at it like a 80% run from here. I mean, it's going to go pretty high. Fame's great. And as far as the tokenomics go, ask somebody. It's got some pretty cool tokenomics built into it. What do you got?
I think we talked about GIF. Last time you were on the show, it was riding high, the unchartable chart. Now, is it more chartable?
Mm-hmm. It's down 95% off the highs, and it's hit this. If you look at the global Fibonacci, it's at coming into the 382. So if these levels here don't, by the way, I'm measuring this in dollars. Let me measure it in Pulse. I like that a little better. So I'll teach you something about VPVR quick, because this is a good test example of it. If I look at the whole chart history, the highest volume traded ever on this chart was here at this level here at 971 PLS per GIF. And you could see how the price tried to respect this level here for quite a while. It tried to hold that level for 12 days, but then broke below and then struggled to get above it for another 4 days before it broke down. And that's a really bad sign. And it was at this point where, it was easy for me to call to the group, like, hey, this is going to go a lot lower. And I actually have it. My target is down here. So I think GIF could fall another 79% potentially against Pulse, especially if Pulse really starts to move. How are you going to get buyers that are going to come in and buy this instead in it when it's like flat versus a Pulse that's rising? So it's just going to naturally drag the chart down, especially under the pressure of all of these guys that are underwater from up here where all this volume was traded. So it's a rough setup to be in right now, but it's going to take the market makers some effort and expendable income to get this thing propped back up into the zone. But because of the low liquidity here on this pair, and I think there's more on other pairs, so let's just assume that there's a couple 100K, 200K or something. One way that they could save this thing is they reverse the price by removing LP and just pumping it back up. So, which would give people a chance to exit up here. And so you get like a pump and a retrace, and then you could do it again. And then you're going to absorb a lot of that supply over time. But I think the thing that I want to say the most about this chart is about the mechanics of GIF and PGIF is like, I feel like the LP setup is limiting the arbitrage opportunity, which is nonsensical to me. I'd like to see a situation where there's a little bit more of a free float in here for price to move around so that people can actually arbitrage it in either direction effectively to actually get more units of one or the other. Whereas like when it was hardcore at like $2 million in here, paired up in here, and just the thing was like stuck at 1-to-1, it wasn't an environment where it's actually profitable to arbitrage it. And it was just nobody had enough GIF to move the ARB in one direction or the other. And I could be wrong about the design intentions of it. That could have been completely to the design intent. But I just think in my mind, I would like the free market to have more flexibility and opportunity to do things, is how I kind of look at it. And when you zoom out here and you look at the GIF to PGIF ratio, it's hit a low of 0.9. So this was like an opportunity, right? That was snapped right up. Within 6 days, that 10% was recovered. And then it happened again. And now it's happening a little bit slower due to the lower activity. But yeah, this looks like to be the range anywhere between 0.9 and 1. Obviously, the decrease in liquidity helps out a little bit here for giving people an opportunity to arb between the two.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. It launched on ICOSA for the deflationary aspect of permeable assets. It was Nope with Noble, Stable for LUSD. So it's be interesting to see, if there's any other communities that come in, how they participate. I mean, a lot of that's tied into the mechanics as well. But it's very, very cool to see the TA aspect of it and get your thoughts again. I know we've round tripped on it. I think maybe I feel like it was 6 weeks ago, 6 or 8 weeks ago, and to see what it looks like now. Very cool.
There's a couple other questions here I'll address before we get off, which was Tam and Good Texture wondering why buy and hold COM at all. And I guess one of the reasons is because it has massive upside potential, as it showed here. If I measure it, just like any coin, right? Any cryptocurrency, you want to look for ones with historic price performance. This one did 34,000% from July of last year to October. And so I think you could expect that, seeing this kind of accumulation and this uptrend does remind me a lot of the early days here, where it kind of was just, week after week green, and you're in that accumulation. And so, I mean, this would set you up for a nice upside on the scarcity of it. And because it's literally a derivative of a T-share, because the only way that it comes into existence is because people staked HEX and they staked it really long, which removes HEX supply. And so the COM is really representing the value, the amount of HEX that's been staked out long. So you can think of it like an endpoint that stores the energy of the HEX contract by the behavior of incentivizing people to stake really fucking long. And the higher the COM price is, the more people will want to stake really long, because they'll get back this start bonus that pays them for staking long. And some days it's been 5%, some days it's been 20%. At the high. And so that's important, because if you can go take 10 grand and stake it for 15 years and you get back $2,000 for a 20% coupon rate, at least you're getting paid something now back to compensate for the time value of money and the opportunity cost of doing so in the short term. So I think that this is a really effective way for the market to incentivize users to stake and stake really long, because it doesn't really pay COM to do less than 15 years. If you're doing below 10 years, you're getting a fraction of the COM that you would get for going max length. And that's important. And that's by design. So yeah, COM is a little more complex to understand, but because there's a few whales that understand that, they've decided to accumulate it and support it, because they believe that by hoarding it, they can raise the valuation to a point where it incentivizes the market to act well in the HEX contract.
Yeah, like a lot of the stuff built on HEX and incentivizing, staking and otherwise. Yeah, always cool to see people build on it.
So Good Texture, this is juicy. Good Texture says, so COM is a meme coin. Staking doesn't support the COM price floor. Correct. Staking does not support the COM price floor. The COM holders support the price, just with any coin. So basically you're relying on benevolent whales, with any coin, with Axis, which did, stupid numbers. Anytime that there's a concentration of economic energy in benevolent hands and they have a mission of doing good, then they can hold the price floor up by storing all the COM for themselves. And then what that does for them over the long term is, if their COM bags, if their $5,000 quad turned into a $500,000 quad, but you got 10 of them because you bought them 3 years ago, and now you've incentivized this whole HEX market to grow and stake their shit long, and now there's less supply. Now the HEX price is up 20x, 30x. You've won on the HEX side, you've won on the COM side, and you could just take $1,000 off forever, every day. And so it's just with any market, a smart whale will recognize the opportunity early and see how the mechanics work together and try to absorb that supply at those levels, and then it no longer exists. So you can't go down past a certain price floor. There is a level of inflation to it, because every time somebody stakes for 15 years or however long, there is new inflation that comes in. But, obviously the longer you stake into the future, the longer it takes you to stake into the future, the higher the T-share rate is, so the less COM you're getting back. So the T-share rate is effectively reducing inflation over time as well. So you're getting the support from the contract itself.
All right, man. I think we nailed it. Do we actually complete a high quality gem packed, I should say, stream in 1 hour? That's hard to do. It's a virtual high five, man.
Thanks for letting me take the floor. I appreciate that, and hopefully it was helpful for the viewers.
No, it was great. Yeah, I mean, that's have you not got your money's worth today, everyone? You got your free content, all that stuff. Where can I mean, I actually mentioned before, accessalive.com for his stuff as well. But yeah, where can people find you, man, before we wrap up?
Yeah, accessalive.com is probably the best place to find me, or youtube.com/accessalive. Come check out the membership plans. People have been getting value in there for a long time. I had been taking a quick hiatus, but now I'm back and ready to rock. So I think my last comment that I'll give you guys about in reference to this whole HEX confusion and this new share system for the Axis Axis coin is I'm going to launch something that's going to prove the HEX confusion. And if this is successful on Axis, it's going to prove it. And then hopefully that ignites a buying frenzy on COM because of what will happen to the Axis price because of what we're going to build and launch. So like super excited to launch that and talk more about that as time comes on.
Well, there you go. You can get a sneak peek at the end. Awesome. All right, everyone. That's all we got for you today. Scivive and 5555. We were out.
Peace.